Strange world we live in. Especially when this brand new 2022 BMW M240i in front of me is actually a bit of a value proposition when compared to some of its competitors. And you might be wondering, hey Marcus, why don't I just get the previous generation M2? It's got a stick, I want 3 pedals, I want to get the rear end sideways, I want to do donuts. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's faster than the old M2. And because, as of today, the only way we're getting a look at the brand new 2023 upcoming M2 is still behind camouflage, this is your option. Even though it does have xDrive and it is not available to be equipped with a 6-speed manual. So this is the $50,000 question. All right, so the 2022 M240i, this is a brand new 2 Series. What we're gonna do is go out of comfort mode. Because we have different drive modes, we are going to go into, we'll start off in just Sport Standard, which this one has been equipped with the optional Adaptive M suspension. So there is a bit of a change in damping between Comfort Sport and Sport Plus. And then of course, as standard for this generation is the M Sport Active rear differential, which of course, because the M240i is only equipped with xDrive at this current moment in time, it will be coming in rear-wheel drive form later on. It's sending a significant amount of that torque to the rear wheels. In standard, just kind of normal driving conditions, it is sending 60% of the torque to the rear wheels and 40 to the front. So should we start with launch control? Okay, so scratch that. We'll go into Sport Plus in order to do launch control. There we go, wow. Wow, just a great sound from the B58 up top. Incredibly hard shifts from the ZF 8-speed transmission, but somehow BMW's been able to tune their ZF 8-speeds to behave incredibly similar to just a manic dual clutch, something that's lightning fast, instantaneous, and this car shifts incredibly hard. So 382 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque, 7,000 RPM. When it's shifting third to fourth, it hits 7,000 RPM and then it dips down to maybe 5,500 RPM. And of course the B58 has double fan house because this is a single turbo, twin scroll, but single turbo engine. The S58 is of course twin turbo, the same engine that's in the M3 and the M4. No need to shift there. It's a great sounding engine. Now, this really does beg the question, hey, I mean, this is an all-wheel drive Supra. It's an all-wheel drive M2. This new 2 Series has a wider track width, both front and rear, more so front than the outgoing 2 Series. So it does have a wider stance. You look at the rear quarter panels here, that it's got much more aggressive lines than the standard 235i, and it's on par now, looks-wise and aggressiveness to the previous generation M2. And although it doesn't have the power, it doesn't have over 400 horsepower. It only has 20 horsepower less. And then you combine that with xDrive, and as you guys just saw with launch control, it gets out of a dig just a little bit quicker than that previous M2. It's quicker. And this is not an all-out M car. Now, what BMW's done well in differentiating their non-M cars, which is funny because M logo here, M logo on the door sill, M logo on the side, M logo on the back. It's not an M car. They would like you to believe. And of course, you've got the contrasted blue stitching here, and you've got the M colors in the door. No, it's not an M car. Don't call it an M car, but it's faster than the M2. Now, from a roll race, yes, of course, the M2's power would really start to come into effect, and you'd notice the extra power and speed there. And because it has xDrive, yes, it is heavier. It is a little bit more nose heavy than the M2 would be. And compared to the previous generation automatic M2, it's 250 pounds heavier. So this is not a light car. And as I demonstrated yesterday while driving a Suzuki Cappuccino, this is no longer a small car. The 2 Series is not a small car. It weighs about 3,800 pounds. It is a heavy, heavy vehicle. Yeah, it absolutely does better on corner exit than entry. That was straight up almost oversteer there. It wanted to step out so bad. There again. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. It will play with the rear end. Those 2 corners, you guys, just sold me. Let's talk about pricing. Okay, so I think the rain stopped for just long enough to shoot this. So the M240i starts at $48,000 USD. This one behind me, as tested, is right around $53,000 American, or $68,000 Canadian. So just for reference, we're gonna compare 2 other cars that I mentioned. The 3-liter Toyota Supra starts at right around $52,000 USD. So just a little bit less than the M240i, almost fully spec'd out. And what you can do is, if you get rid of the comfort package on this M240i that's sitting behind me, which includes things like the heads-up display, you get lumbar support, you get the Harman Kardon stereo, and a few other options. If you get rid of that for a few $1,000s, you get the B58 for less than the Supra. Plus you get xDrive. What is that? How do you get all-wheel drive and the B58 in a arguably, depending on who you ask, better looking, better packaged car with more space for less money? And just to kind of, I mean, I was gonna say add insult to injury, but we can bring up the Nissan Z, which of course is also a twin turbocharged 6-cylinder car, and it starts at $41,000, which is way less than the European counterparts. Makes sense, right? Yes, it in fact does. But with the base Z, you don't get active suspension and you don't get a limited slip differential as standard, whereas here, the adaptive suspension is an option, but the LSD is standard. So if you get the Z with the LSD and the adaptive suspension, add $10,000 onto that, where are we at? We're at $51,000. So $51,000, $52,000, and $53,000. Which would you have? It is actually a bargain. And we all know the Supra's interior is BMW as well. But that's something to mull over. You guys can think about that. Go for your test drives, go poke around for yourself. But as far as styling is concerned, let's take a look around. So this one in front of me is spec'd in this Thunder Night metallic. Here, actually in this light, if I adjust the polarizer a little bit, look at that hip line. I love that hip line back there. This is what has made it almost to M2 status. It is clearly wider than the outgoing M235i. It is just about as wide as the previous M2, and it looks that way. It looks incredibly aggressive. The front end took a while to grow on me. Then I thought of the nostril grille from the M3 and the M4 that, love it or hate it, it's questionable. And then I was like, this is actually a really good looking car. Yes, it is a little bit squared off. It's very kind of a squared front end, as you guys can see here, but it is aggressive. I love these triangle intakes here on the side that kind of, all these lines kind of feed in towards the center of the vehicle here. Looks really great. And then of course here you have the grille, which will close when it doesn't need to be open. We have new door handles. There is an optional carbon fiber package, a few items that you can order when you spec your M240i. This one hasn't been fitted with the carbon fiber spoiler, but that is an option. Of course, this is gloss black here, and there's an optional carbon fiber diffuser as well. And then you have these twin exhausts, which of course, they're just tips. There is quite a bit of space, I've noticed, between the two taillights. And although, yes, the nose does look a little bit long, it is a inline six, you have to remember, and they're trying to keep it compact and fun to drive, yet still have room for the back seats there. So let's get back in the car and finish up the drive. Okay, we're gonna do another launch control here. There we go. Wow. The steering's absolutely been tuned differently here than the M340i I drove, and it's very light here. Even in Sport Plus, there's, you know, it weights up in the middle of a corner, but it doesn't have as much feedback when you're under load. It's more so just regardless of how fast you're going, it weights up versus actually giving you real-time tactile feedback from the tire to the steering. So this one I'm driving today has not been optioned with the optional Michelin tires. We are on all seasons here, so I'm not getting as much grip as I would. And in Sport Plus, you can see it will hold the gears high up there when you just leave it in automatic mode. And it bangs up right close to 7,000 RPM redline. It shifted there about 6,800. Not quite as quick as a dual clutch on the downshifts, but it's up there. As far as automatics go that aren't dual clutches, BMW's making some of the best, if not the best. I mean, it's not BMW, it's ZF in Germany, but. So if we leave it in second gear, it does take a second to spool. And you know, I'm happy here that BMW hasn't tried to. It would be incredibly tough to anyways, but hasn't tried to completely eliminate the feeling of turbo spool. Hey, some of us like to know that our turbo's putting in work. Some of us enjoy having that feeling in a turbocharged vehicle, and I'm just one of those people. I'm not a fan most of the time of a, let's say, a twin turbo, twin scroll setup on a bigger displacement engine where you can't feel the turbos. And right now, this is an all-wheel drive M2. That's what I'm feeling here. That's what I'm driving. It is so capable. It's incredibly planted, but the limits are still accessible here on the street, even with all-wheel drive. So that's something I was hoping for before I got into the 240i, and you know, I'm happy to find that it's actually here. They've managed to do it. They've managed to do it again. So thanks guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit me up on Instagram at Roads Untraveled. If you want to see what I'm driving on a day-to-day basis. See you guys very soon.